is going on, everyone? We are back with another In Search of Darkness horror review. I'm Depraved,
I'm Hellcat.
and together we are...
HellaDepraved.
Yes, we are.
And this is 1983, The Hunger. So, second movie in a row that has a huge music star, which is kind of interesting that they are back to back. We had Debbie Harry or Blondie in the last one, and we get David Bowie in this one.
Right.
Which was fabulous, as he always is.
Right. Alright, so, Rotten Tomatoes. This was not as praised as the last movie we covered. It has a critic review of 56% and an audience review of 66%. I feel like the audience review is only high because it's David Bowie.
Well, and, you know, Susan Sarandon and Catherine Deneuve and...
We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
makes sense.
Where the fuck is the... Stop, dude, my mouse. The Hunger is directed by Tony Scott, screenplay by Ivan Davis and Michael Thomas, based on The Hunger by Whitley Strieber. Produced by Richard Shepard, starring Catherine Deneuve, David Bowie, and Susan Sarandon, which we already mentioned all of them.
Right.
Cinematography, Stephen Goldblatt. Edited by Pamela Power and Peter Hannes. Music by Howard Blake, Denny Jaeger, probably. Jaeger, maybe. Michael Rubini. Production company was MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer. Distributed by MGM, United Artists Entertainment Co. Release date was April 29th, 1983. 97-minute runtime. And it doesn't tell us how much it cost to make it, but it did make $10.2 million.
Big names.
Big names will do that for you.
Right.
But yes, this is a vampire movie. This might be the first vampire movie we've had.
I believe it might be.
I believe so, because we've had a couple werewolves.
Oh yeah, but I think this might be the first legit vampire movie.
We've had a couple slashers.
So we start with Catherine Deneuve as Miriam Blaylock, and she is a ancient vampire, and you kind of see that in flashbacks that she's been around for a long time. And her consort, David Bowie, and they're in a club where they select two young uns and take them for feeding, where they don't use teeth. They use an ankh pendant around their neck that has a blade in it to cause the wound, and then they incinerate them because they have an incinerator in their basement. Because if you're an ancient vampire and don't have money, what have you been doing with yourself? So you then see that they're posing as a very rich couple that teaches classical music. And in flashbacks, you see that David Bowie's character was a cellist, award-winning cellist that she met 200 years prior. And they are now offering lessons to a girl that you come to find out is kind of being groomed by Miriam's character to be her consort when she comes of age. And David Bowie's character starts suffering from insomnia and aging, rapid aging. And you see that even though Miriam's character in his flashbacks had promised him everlasting life with her, and that it's going to be them against the world forever and ever, that this has happened before, to her other consorts, that at some point feeding on humans doesn't keep them, she doesn't age, but her consorts do. So he goes out looking for potential solutions, and there is a scientist who would be played by Susan Sarandon, who is studying the quick aging in monkeys, but also in people via monkeys. And he's hoping that some of her research could help him with his problem, which is a couple hours, and he is a decade older, so pretty intense. But she blows him off, thinking that he's just sort of suffering from insomnia. But when she returns a couple hours later and he is visibly aged,
Right.
she tries to track him down and follow him, but he's like, yeah, you wasted my time, so bye-bye. But she does end up tracking him down to his residence, and Miriam's character turns her away and says that he's in Switzerland to get tested for what's going on. And she's like, okay, well, please keep me informed. Here's my card, blah, 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 goes away. And Miriam goes back in the house, and you realize that she has put David Bowie's aged character in a coffin in the attic with a lot of other coffins, and has asked her other consorts in the coffins to please keep him company now. It's creepy. It's because that's when you find out that
They never die.
they're alive.
They're just old.
And she can't kill them. And I forgot to mention, David Bowie did kill the young girl that was supposed to be her next consort, hoping that maybe because she was being groomed to be the consort, or maybe because she was so young that her blood would rejuvenate him, and it doesn't. So the cops do come looking for the little girl, and Miriam pretends like she has no clue, and they go away. And then Susan Sarandon comes back. Her character comes back, still looking, because she thinks that this rapidly aging man might break her studies wide open, and gets seduced by Miriam because she is lonely at that point. And during their foray, Miriam bites Susan Sarandon's character and mixes their blood together, and then sends her on her way, basically. And feeling weird, she does get her blood tested with her lab compatriots, and they tell her that basically she has a foreign, inhuman blood invading her system and battling her blood for domination. And she's like, who's winning? And like, there's no answer at that point, just like dire looks. So she goes back to Miriam's to demand answers, like, what happened? Why do I feel this way? And Miriam tells her about being a vampire, gives her the same spiel that obviously she's given all her other consorts about, it'll be us till the end of time, you know, don't you want forever? We're superior. And she's like, no, I don't want anything to do with this. But she's so sick at that point that she lets Miriam's character put her to bed in the guest room. At which point, her lab partner / boyfriend comes looking for her. And she is just screaming in pain. So he runs to her and he's trying to help her. And she feeds off of him and kills him. And Miriam's character is pleased and is also hopeful that that means that she is ready to be a vampire with her. And Susan Sarandon sort of lulls her in and goes to kiss her, and then stabs herself. Susan Sarandon stabs her own self with Miriam's Ankh pendant while kissing Miriam, so that she forces her own blood into Miriam's mouth, which is basically the opposite of what Miriam did to turn Susan's character into a vampire in the first place. And you think it's gonna work because Miriam plays the whole, like, I'm melting kind of witch moment. And then next thing you know, she's carrying Susan's character into the room with all the coffins and looks like she's gonna put her in one. And then the house shakes and, like, all the coffins open and all of her ex-lovers pop up in decayed zombie form. And she ends up falling over the banister, all 5 stories of her exquisite townhouse, rapidly aging. And as she falls to the ground and like becomes a husk, still a live husk, but a husk, all of her ex-consorts turn into powder. And the very last scene, you see Susan Sarandon standing in London with two consorts, it looks like, and tucked away in her attic in a coffin is Miriam, decayed, but still screaming out her name, Sarah. Sarah, Sarah. And the cop does come back to try and get some more info on the little girl, but he walks in and the house is being shown for sale. So, interesting.
All right. So cast, as many of you have already heard, Catherine Donahue plays Miriam Blaylock. David Bowie is John Blaylock. Susan Sarandon is Sarah Roberts. Cliff DeYoung as Tom Harver. Dan Hedaya as Lieutenant Allegreza.
Right.
Beth Ellers as Alice Cavender. I almost said
That's
cadaver.
the little girl, yeah.
And Rufus Collins as Charlie Humphreys. Apparently, and I just learned this because I didn't notice it during the thing.
Right.
But Willem Dafoe and John Pankow. I feel like I know that name. I know Willem Dafoe's.
Well, yeah.
But Willem Dafoe's also in the movie as one of the youths.
Makes it very small.
I didn't notice it when I was watching it for reasons.
Right.
I
mean, it's a very small. Yeah.
Very small. Special effects
They're actually pretty good.
are pretty good. There's not really much that's used
like
overall.
the rapid aging and the decayed mummies kind of thing, but
You don't actually watch them actively age, but it's like
you watch her because she rapidly decays.
does she decay on screen, or is it like every time a screen switches?
No, I'm pretty sure she flashes. But again, there's not a huge amount, but they were well used when they were.
They were. Yeah. Now to just talk about this movie for a minute. I have no problem watching short movies. I have no problem watching long movies or anything in between. But this movie,
as long as they hold your interest, I think is the clarification.
Said it was 93 minutes. And I swear to God, it felt like we were there for 4 hours.
He's not lying.
Understand this. This movie has an amazing cast. And it was not because of the acting that was done in this movie. But this movie is so slow-paced. So terribly paced.
Yeah.
I just wanted it to end.
There's not a lot of dialogue. Like, honestly, like the emotions are very well played, and it is very artsy. It was meant to be artsy, fashionable, kind of risque and shocking, but in an art way, because you've got two women definitely making out. It's a very, I don't want to say like sexual, it's a very sensual sort of film, but the problem is certain parts of it I feel like didn't add up because dialogue was missing, like Miriam seducing Sarah and how quickly it happened because Sarah's a scientist, and it wouldn't have happened like that. There was just, it was very slow, and David Bowie was out so quickly. There's just not.
It's just boring, fam. This is, in my opinion, of all the movies we've watched and we've reviewed so far, this is the most boring out of everything on this list.
I really won't give it like the worst movie, but in
I'm not
terms of
saying
just
worst,
like boring.
But it is the most boring. I mean,
and I hate saying that because honestly, I like the premise. I like where they were going with the story. I like the high fashion, and I like, again, the characters were fantastic. But the way that it was directed. Not, yeah. It was just so slow. I don't know. I mean, I'm a reader. I don't mind slow-paced things. I don't, but this was slow and without purpose. Yeah.
This wasn't Skinamarink bad. Fuck. Again,
right.
I another thing it has going against it for me, anyways, is that it's another fucking vampire movie.
Definitely. I love vampire movies, so that's not a...
I am not a vampire guy. Now, obviously, actually, we did one vampire movie. It was that one where they were on the secret island, had the doctor.
That's werewolves.
It was werewolves. Never mind, you're right. This might be the first vampire movie.
It was the Howling.
Yeah. There are a couple vampire movies I like, regardless of which version of it. Let Me In, Let the Right One In. They're both good.
Right.
I prefer Let Me In, the American one, but I'm also more familiar with the little girl that plays the vampire in that one.
She's an amazing actress, yeah.
I do like Van Helsing, which that's kind of
more action.
John Carpenter's Vampires,
right,
is a bloody fun time. We watched that one that we enjoyed that was on Netflix that had Snoop Dogg in it just recently.
Oh, Daylight or like Graveyard Shift.
It's like Night Shift.
It was funny.
Night Shift,
it's funny, yeah.
That's a fun little one. And then there's like Interview with the Vampire I enjoy.
Right.
And that's a slow movie too, but it's slow in a way that like
there's a lot.
There's still a lot going on.
There's a lot going. Again, I love vampire movies. Give me a vampire movie and I'm in. And this one, I thought it was gorgeous. High fashion. I loved the characters and what could have been done with them. I think I felt like out of everything, the way that they played Catherine Deneuve, her character, and this is the script. This is not how she played Miriam, but how she was written. They wanted her to be so mysterious and like almost closed off because she was losing yet another consort, and you're supposed to realize that she's gone through this multiple times, and so part of you has sympathy for her, but more of you has sympathy for the consort that she kind of led astray and like did not fill in, and this was not the deal basically. But that makes her very non-vocal, and so she really didn't have that many lines.
Right.
Like she's a major presence on the screen, but she doesn't really talk much. And so when you're trying to be that mysterious, you lose something. Like she's gorgeous. Emotions, right. Spot on. Looks stunning in all of her outfits. Like you could seriously do a fashion ad with any of the takes from that movie. But the problem is she's just... You're like, okay, can we, like, explain? Like, we don't need backstory necessarily, but can we have a little bit more? Something? So, I was sad because I think this could have been top tier.
I went into this obviously I didn't go into this with much expectation wise because I'd never heard of the movie prior to...
It's a vampire movie too.
Well, prior to even it being on
right
In Search of Darkness, I'd never heard of it.
I'd heard of it.
So when it popped up, and I'm always going to somewhat look forward to whatever it is that's on these lists because it's 80s horror, and
right.
I love 80s horror is for the most part either really good or so bad that it's good.
Bad. Yeah.
But I didn't go into it with any real expectations because again, I'd never heard of it prior to it being on this documentary. I'm not a big vampire person. I'm not a David Bowie fan.
There's something wrong with him.
Susan Sarandon's a hell of an actress. Catherine Deneuve, hell of an actress. Honestly, I probably would have been way super excited to see Willem Dafoe if I'd have known he was going to be in it. But he's so in and out of it, I didn't even notice that he was there.
He's not even a character, really.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I almost want to fast forward, watch through the movie just to find him, but I'm not going to. It's this movie is just boring. It's just boring.
Now that I've seen it, I probably will not rewatch it. I mean, I may go to YouTube to see certain scenes again, just to, now that I have seen the whole thing and know what to look for, what I might have missed or whatnot. But like, again, there's so much lull, and it really did tick me off that it was so beautiful that so much, it's one of those that I feel like a letdown. It's a letdown. Like, I feel like all the basic beautiful bones were there, even the backstory of this movie, but it feels like that's all you get is the bare bones. They never fleshed anything out, and as well as and David Bowie played his character beautifully. His was the best character because he was the one who had almost the most script, and he's only in it like the first third maybe, but because he's going through so much trauma in terms of learning that this woman he loves doesn't love him the same way, and that she lied to him and led him on in terms of like everlasting life and forever, and he's desperate to try and find help for himself, and then coming to find out that he's not going to die, he's just going to age and like be alive. Like, it's horrifying. And David Bowie is vocal about that and like emotes about this whole thing, and then he's put in a coffin, and the rest of the way through is pretty sparse in terms of conversation from that point. And it's not like it picks up with action or something that makes up for the dialogue. It's just, so yeah.
Anyways, baby,
I am gonna give this,
it is time to judge the film. What is your judgment?
I'm gonna give this 2.5 onks.
Whew.
Again, I think I'm very disappointed. I am, but I think it had so many of the elements 100% correct. It was the dialogue part that was shit.
Right. I, myself,
am strange and unusual.
am giving this 1.5 caskets. The only reason it's getting a 1.5 is because of the outstanding acting.
Right. But basically, you
this
aged so much during this that you
I
could
feel
be
like I
buried
aged
in
more
the
than David
1.5.
Bowie
Yeah,
did
right.
in this fucking movie, okay? Like, you guys ever watch those fucking commercials or shows where, like, or you see those comics where they're, like, waiting for their significant other to do something,
And they turn to
and then they're skeletons, and they're just standing, like, that's how I felt.
I honestly am shocked as shit that you didn't just fall asleep during it. I kept looking
I
at
almost
him.
did.
I know, I
several
kept
times.
looking. He kept moving, and he was moving specifically so that he wouldn't fall asleep. It was, and I heard all the groaning, too. It was like, is this gonna...
Is this almost over?
Right.
It feels like it could end at any minute, but it just keeps going and going and going. And the story wasn't really there for me.
Now,
I need excitement in horror, guys. Don't be. I read it here. Hollywood hated the movie. They called it esoteric and artsy fartsy. Don't be artsy fartsy. Just make a goddamn movie.
I think you need to be careful.
Like, if you'd have killed like 10 more people, I'd have been here for this.
But I think you need to be careful about what you're sacrificing for it.
No, I know. But they could have sacrificed some here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they sacrificed too much of the dialogue and plot in lieu of being high fashion. And I think the other thing that was written up about this is that originally the ending just ended with Sarah's character up in the casket, and
I was so mad. The last 30 seconds of the movie had me way more intrigued than the rest of the 93 minutes that was in this fucking movie.
And then I think Catherine's character rapidly aging, and you're not supposed to know, like, who survived, who doesn't. Like, Sarah's character, I think, was supposed to actually die, and it's the breaking of, like, apparently they find out Miriam's character, part of the reason she can't kill any of her previous consorts is because they're having everlasting life, because they're part of her, keeps her alive, so she can't actually kill them when they start aging. And
right.
Sarah killing herself,
well,
you know.
The good news is they're working on a remake for this. Apparently, it started being talked about in September of 2009.
Yeah, that doesn't seem super promising.
They shared news in 2021 with a new screenplay that was being done by Jessica Scherzer, and it is being produced, last anyone heard, by Greg Berlanti. Okay. Berlanti, Sarah Schrechter, and Mike McGrath. Hopefully we get the traditional remake treatment and that we get backstory.
I mean, the sad thing is that they had a super fucking strong trio.
They did. Leading
this, and nobody's going to be able to replace David Bowie, but on the flip side,
puffed.
At least they'll know that they can't do it the same way as the original, because...
You just hire The Rock. You want this to be a good movie.
He's gonna peck pop instead of,
as a matter of fact, just for you, baby, we don't even need it to be two women. It could be The Rock and Momoa. They can be the two that have a makeout scene.
I'd watch it. I'm not gonna lie. Add Defoe in.
Do you know how many people would be so pissed off? I would find it entertaining.
I'm not worried. Add Defoe back into the mix. Like, let's make this an all-male cast. I want Christopher Walken in here because it needed more cowbell. And he's high fashion and a fantastic dancer, and he's just fun. Defoe, we'll put him back in because, if we're having any sort of, graphic scenes, apparently he's the one to call. And then, Rock and Momoa.
There you go. We just gave you guys
I just recast
$1 billion movie idea.
Right, just to pay them to be there. Right. Anyway, I will be interested to see who they try.
My lips will layeth the smackdown on that candy ass.
Oh no. Okay. Look, we've already seen The Rock bomb one ancient Egyptian role. Let's not introduce him to another one where the roots are from ancient Egypt, shall we? Okay. All right. I did say that. I did. Anyway, I will be interested to see what they do with the remake. I will. I just don't know that you can make a movie.
Oh wait, they did.
I don't know.
Never mind. Anyways, that's gonna do it.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. I think our next review is going to be Pooh, Blood, and Honey, so be on the lookout for that. And we'll see you there. Bye-bye.